Hi, I'm Anita Casalina, and this is Earth 2.0. According to our guest Robin Kincade, with great change comes great opportunity. And we can use these big world changes as a time to learn more about ourselves. Hey, Robin, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me, Anita. It's really a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah. Well, I was so impressed the way I met you is that I read a wonderful blog that you had written and posted. I saw it on LinkedIn, and it talked about how this is a time people could be using to think about themselves and to hone their skills and to make improvements in their lives and not to despair that they didn't have anything to do, but rather look at it as a real growth period.
Yes, I think that one of the things that something like this really reminds us of is that with great change comes great opportunity.
Yes.
And, if it just depends on how you perceive it and how you look at it, and then what you do behind those perceptions action wise. And there are moments at this time that you can actually change your life for the better. And you have the time to do it because we are in an uncertain time right now. So
Right. And this is something I know you teach people, and you have a good reason behind how you came about this. You have a backstory of your own that I loved when you told me. So tell us about that.
yes, well, when I got out of high school, I went up to north to Humboldt State to go to school, and it was during a very bad time in the 1970s, mid 70s. There was no work, and I ended up getting a job in a lumber mill, pulling wood. I was one of the first women in the mills. And that was a really tough job. I mean, it was dangerous, it was hard, it was physical, it was really boring. There was no intellectual stimulation whatsoever,
Grueling,
but
it sounds
grueling,
like.
grueling work, really. But you learn to work with crews of men. So that was good. That was really good. I ended up working next to a young man who was going to school full time, and him and I became good friends. His name is Richard Stull, and he's Professor Richard Stull, now Dr. Richard Stull. And he convinced me over a period of time, pulling lumber on that chain, that I could get any life I wanted. I could get a life. I didn't have to be there, and I didn't have to spend 4 years in college. That was not going to be my path. I could have it, but how? How could I get that path? And so one day he said, well, let's go out to the beach. And I made a big picnic lunch, and we spent the day out at the beach, and we made 3 lists. This is it. This is how my whole beginning started. The first list is, who are you really? Not, do you like to go to the movies, or you like, to go skating, or no. Do you like to get up early in the morning? Are you best in the early in the day or later in the day? Do you like people, or are you a loner? Are you the master of your universe and you want everything in its place, or do you love adventure? These are the things that you ask yourself, and you take some time with this list. If you can, you ask your friends, what do you think of this about me? From that first list comes the second list. And the second list is, what jobs pertain to that first list? In my case, of course, because I love people, I've always loved people, it was the media, which is a huge, like, brushstroke. The media. What does that mean? So we honed down an area that I could have a career. And the third list, which was the most important list, is, what can you do tomorrow to go get a job in the media? Doesn't matter where, just get in. Just get in.
So, who are you? What do you like? What is an area you're interested in? And then how do you get there?
Who are you? What jobs pertain to who are you?
Mm.
So it's literally, look for the jobs, look for those entry level jobs that would interest you. Do you love animals? I mean, are you really an animal person? Why aren't you working with animals? There's all kinds of ways to work with animals. Do you really like the elderly? Do you like to help people? Well, there's all kinds of ways you can get into entry level positions that you don't need a full education. And eventually on that road, you will get the education you need because you're on the road. You
Right.
just got to get on the road.
That's the
So
point, is getting on the road.
just get on the road. I got on the road. I got on the road in a very low end office job. I cut my intake of money. My salary went down. I didn't care. I was out of the mill. I was working in television. It was very exciting for me. And I worked my way through every job in that station. And eventually it led to a freelance career. And I live in San Francisco now, and I've been doing this for 30 years. It started in a lumber mill on a chain. That's the truth.
With a good neighbor on the chain who saw the potential in you. And that's one of the things that I think you help other people with is seeing their own potential, seeing the things within themselves that maybe they haven't believed in yet or don't know yet, and have to learn to believe in. So what do you do? How do you help people to come to that understanding about themselves?
Well, I think the first thing you have to understand is that change starts first here. If you don't understand that, you're never going to change. It's really about changing how you think. And how do you do something like that? Well, one of the things that I did early on in my process was mantras, because we are nothing but pattern making machines. We love a good pattern. We get into pattern, our bodies like it, our minds like it. That's why we don't want to get out of that pattern. And a lot of negative patterns are created that way. And you see that. I see that in myself. We see that in others. You can do the same exact thing with a positive pattern. Well, what does exactly that mean? Well, if you don't know what you want and you are at that place that you really don't know, you just ask the universe over and over, what do I want? What do I want? What do I You don't have to have an answer for it. It'll come.
So by that repetition of the asking, the answer begins to make itself known to you.
If we knew how powerful our words were, we'd shut our mouths half the time. We would. It is immensely powerful. The sound of the word in the universe, in the air. If you understand that and you start speaking to yourself in that way, you start riding the horse. You start captaining the ship, your life. If your family says, "Oh, don't go become a DP, you won't make any money," you do not listen to them. You say, "I am going to be the best DP in the world." All of the DPs that have become famous have had huge pushback. This is not an easy business.
That's director of photography for people who aren't in the business. And oftentimes, at least in this culture, when young people decide to choose a career in the arts, their family says, "Oh, no, 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 don't do that because there won't be any money in it." But if your heart is telling you that that's the direction to go in,
yes,
you want
I
to
think
follow that.
you have two things inside of yourself. You have your heart and your mind, and a lot of people make the mistake of following their mind and hoping that the heart's going to be okay, putting the heart in the corner and saying, don't worry about it. But that's not how it should run. The heart should rule and the mind should follow. The heart makes a great master. The mind does not.
The mind knows how to navigate through the world, correct?
The mind is an incredible servant
To the heart.
You don't want to make the servant the master, because that doesn't work. And so if you understand that at a real deep level, then it's just really about what do you want, and then you put that into play. And how you put that into play is organically around you all the time. You just don't see it right now because you're not open to it. I created an entire career. I had no idea. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, well, we've talked about how it's really an organic process, like you say. So it's that first step. When you first put your feet on the road and take that first step, you don't know where it's going to lead exactly. Where's the next door going to open? And the door after that, and the door after that. And you have to trust that process.
This is really what I think a lot about being in business for myself has taught me, is to have faith in the process.
Right.
We are in a process now where we are very uncertain about what is in the future in so many different levels. And yet, I have faith. This has happened to the world before. People have gotten through it before. Will it be rough? Yes, but I think we will get through this because I have faith. Do I take care of myself first and make sure I'm safe? Absolutely. It's part of the process. And having faith can touch every part of your life. if you have it. And I think part of having faith is this process of saying it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. The pattern again, pattern again, pattern again. It's going to be okay. And believe it or not, you'll believe it. After a while, you will believe it. And if you believe it, it happens.
So this time that we're in right now, where people are cloistered from one another, this gives them a lot more available time for recreating patterns, creating something new for themselves, creating new ways of thinking, creating new words that they speak to themselves. Even though there's a lot of uncertainty, they get to know themselves better.
I think this is actually a magical time. This is where we've all had to stop these frenetic, crazy lives we've all been living, no matter where you are, and just stop. That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it really is. I mean, there's a lot of fear, but don't buy into the fear. Just stop and think about it a little bit. It's going to be okay. You'll figure it out. And that's faith. And I know people have different circumstances. I completely understand that. I do. But it all starts here.
Yeah.
It all starts here.
Well, when we are back out in the world, I know you're going to be helping a lot of people think this through for themselves and be able to follow on their own path in the way that you have. So thank you so much for joining us today. This has really been wonderful to talk with you. It sounds like it's such a simple list, who are you? And what pertains in the external world to what you like that makes you who you are, and what are the steps you can take to get there. So
that third list is really important.
Yeah, it is. Those steps.
That's
where the faith really comes in.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Thank you, Robin.
Well, thank you,
Anita.
Anita. All right. Take care.
Bye.